we just went over in step 3. Every single step. We're going to then at the end of going through every single step and explaining every single thing about their plan, then we let them take it home. So one thing you can do, which we do for a few clients, especially if they just need a little extra hand holding, you can do what's called a plan summary. And you can just write, it could be 1 page, it could be 3 pages, 4 pages, whatever you want. It might just be a list of their objectives. What are the goals? So let's just say all you did was list down on 1 piece of paper the goals. Protect Eve, Evo, when Kent passes away. Create an actual survivorship plan. Reduce risk. Kent doesn't want any risk at all. Reduce fees. Provide additional long-term care benefits after 10 years. Decide on their Social Security when to claim it. Like to make a little higher return on their bank assets. Create an actual plan to rely on for retirement security. Eliminate worrying about their money. Boom. Maybe you don't put anything else out. You just list out their objectives as part of a plan summary. Okay? But you can do a little bit more and give them like a little mini plan, 4 pages, 1 page, 2 pages, whatever you want.
Nick, go back to that first picture. I actually do this for every meeting. You see that goals for plan 1 through 9? I have like 13 or 14 goals that are going to be consistent, and I'll just eliminate the ones that client didn't tell me at meeting number 1. At meeting number 1, I'm asking a client, what do you want your money to do for you? And I'm getting them to tell me. And I'll add some things, so, oh yeah, I want that too. Meeting number 2, I'll have this on the screen. It's real simple. It takes me 2 seconds. This is what we're trying to work for. This is what we're trying to solve in the process. When I get to meeting number 3 and I go through the plan with them, the previous meeting that Dan went through you, I say, okay, this is why we did the plan, because you gave me the objective, right? All that is what you're trying to solve, and I want to reinforce it and reinforce it and reinforce it. That's what built their plan.
Perfect. And I think what Jim just said is the most important part is you don't want to allow them to think that you built their plan. You were the technician behind putting the numbers together, but their goals, their wants, their needs, and above all, their budget built their plan. Now, if it was their goals, their wants, their needs, and their budget that built the plan, should they do their plan? The answer is yes. They should do the plan. Because their own internal drive has built everything that we put. All we do is we're really good at the numbers. So, they come in, meeting number 4, and you let them know, you talk about things, how have you done, have you been, tell them a story, ask them what they've done, get them to talk and open up, because this is a big day. This is when you're going to give them what you promised, and everyone always believes you're never going to give them what you promised. They think you're going to give them, like every other advisor, nothing in writing, nothing to take home, nothing to review, and you're just going to be a lot of talk, because that's all we've been up to this point. Now you're going to get them, and you need to get them in a good mood. And then you're going to, like Jim just said, you're going to go over what are their objectives, because you're going to go through the plan again. You want to make sure what their objectives were. You're going to point out that every single objective that they have been met in the plan, which leaves them no room to wiggle out of not doing their plan. And then you're going to take the time, go through it, not quick, but you're going to go through the entire plan again. And you're going to give them the binders. So now, instead of just looking at it on our big 100-inch TV screen, they're going to now have the screen, they're going to have you talking, and they're going to have their plan printed out in front of them, and you'll have them turn and open each page as you're covering that section. So you're going to say, okay, let's go to section 1, and that's your budget. And you're going to go through the budget again with them in detail. Let's turn to section 2. That's your risk, and we're going to put a copy of their risk-wise analysis in there, show them how much risk they have. Okay, great. You understand that? Let's go to section 3. This is going to be your current allocation that shows all your assets with the risk you have, the recovery gain needed, and the golden rule. And then you unfold it, and it's one long piece of paper. Then it's going to show what our plan recommendations are for your assets. You're going to go through that with them, their current allocation and with plan. Go to the next section. You're going to show them the risk acceptance that shows how much risk they're taking, the recovery gain, the total risk index, and where we're going to be down here now at 5% risk and how much risk they've gotten rid of. Then you can say, okay, let's turn to one of the most important pages in the book, and this is going to be your income projection for the next 30 years. So they open it, and it's going to be plan 1. It's going to show all their income with the annuities on a guaranteed basis for the next 30 years on an annual basis. And then you go through the second page, which is on a monthly basis, because some people like to see annual numbers, some people like to see monthly numbers. Then you're going to go through the tax analysis. Turn the page, go to the tax analysis. You're going to show how much tax they're going to pay, what their net income is, minus their budget, what their excess money is. Then you're going to go to the next page. It's going to be the legacy section. It shows how much money they possibly can leave to the beneficiaries. You're going to take your time and go through it. You're going to go to the next section, which is going to be the fees. Current fees, with plan fees, and are the fees more or less, and how much more or less are they? Then you're going to go through each one of the annuity illustrations, one or more, however many you have. Then you're gonna go through the assets under management, how we're projecting that in those, even though we think they'll get a lot higher rate of return, we're gonna show a hypothetical 4% growth rate and taking out 3% to be very conservative. And we're gonna go through it, we're gonna recap everything to them, and everything's printed, as we're saying here, go through the entire plan, and then as we're going through it, they're gonna ask questions, and sometimes there'll be some changes already that you'll start writing notes on, and to make sure that they really haven't changed any of the objectives, because if they have, then we need to modify the plan. And then you say, does this seem to hit every one of the objectives that we've laid out, that we've been working on for the last 3 or 4 weeks that have stayed fairly constant, or is there anything that we missed? And they'll tell you, is there anything that you feel uncomfortable about the plan? Do you like the allocation of how we're using the 3 buckets? How much we have in the bank for liquidity? How much money we have in the red bucket for the growth? And more importantly, how much money we have in the green bucket to allow us to meet your income objectives? Do you feel comfortable there with the money in each one of those buckets? Do you feel comfortable with the money that's in the green bucket? Do you feel like too much? Feel like it's meeting the goals, etc.? Because you want them to tell you any objections they have right then, and verify that it does seem to meet their needs and concerns. Not that this is the final plan, this is still their draft plan, but we need to make sure that it does have an opportunity to feel like it meets your needs. And then we're going to tell them, okay, we went through the whole plan again. This is 2 hours later. We want you to take your binder with you. This is the draft, so you can write directly on the pages when you have questions. You can put stickies everywhere, but I want you to go through it and cover your binder. Usually we'll tell them, we know it's a lot of data, so if it seems overwhelming, go through these 4 sections. Go through your allocation section. Go through your income section. Go through the tax section, and go through your legacy section. You go through those, you're going to understand 90% of your plan, okay? But we also then tell them to verify your budget needs, because remember, your budget has been a key component on how your plan has been put together, so we can generate the income necessary to not only provide you enough money on a monthly basis to meet your budget, but to exceed your budget by our monthly excess number. And then again, we're going to restate our personal objectives for them. The reason also we put the plan together, we knew what your goals were, but now we put our goals in there, which is, I'm going to reduce your risk, because that was one of your number 1 goals. And that's why, as you saw, we used the fixed index annuities with no risk at all market losses, and our assets under management, which have a focus of risk reduction. You were paying a decent amount of fees. One of my goals was I wanted to try to reduce your fees if I could, which we did significantly. We reduced your risk by 95%. We reduced your fees by 0.7% per year, which is significant. And then I wanted to be able to meet not only your monthly gold and retirement budget, but your monthly excess cash flow to give you extra money on a monthly basis. I wanted to make sure you felt comfortable your income was not going to run out during your lifetime, so you don't have to worry about not having that income. And this is how I know my goal and my job is to provide you a worry-free retirement. Then I'm going to go over how long it took to create their plan to let them know how valuable it is. I'm going to go over and I'm going to recap the meetings, but I'm also going to tell them no one else in the United States probably could have put together this type of plan for them. And no one would put this type of plan, and no one would spend the money without, or spend the time without charging them a huge amount of money to do this. We're not going to charge them anything. They get to walk away with it. You don't have to come back next meeting, Mr. Client. You can keep your plan. You can try to adopt it on your own. But we feel very confident that with the relationship we built with you and the plan that we designed, we can implement it perfectly for you. So before you leave, I'm going to schedule your next meeting. What else do you have on this list?
I'd like everybody just to think about what Dan has gone through here a few minutes ago. If you took a prospect through this same exact process here, do you think you would have a better chance of that client becoming a client? One of the biggest scares that we all have is the client comes in, they don't come back the second or third time, right? Do you think if you take the client through this process, the client's going to come back the second, third, and fourth time? More importantly, could you imagine, and just ask yourself, if Dan and I had an office right next to you guys down the street, and the same client came to you and they came to us, do you think there would be a better chance of us acquiring that client or you? I'm not saying you're doing anything wrong. What I'm saying, this process delineates very specific steps that if you follow the process, I don't care where you're at and who you are, you will look like a rock star in the eyes of the prospect, because nobody else is doing this. And remember what we talked about in the beginning, is differentiating ourselves, not being another Me Too advisor, because I can assure you, if a client comes in and we're not in your marketplace, they'll go to 3 different advisors. They're all going to sound the same. They're all talking the same thing. They may like you better than the other person. Maybe that's why they go with you. But we're strictly differentiating ourselves completely from the pack. We're doing things differently. we have a process. Yes, it takes time, but hey, it costs us a ton of money to get in front of a client. It's a ton of money. And when they get one opportunity, right, and you better capture that opportunity. And we found that this process works. It'll work for you. It'll work for anybody. You just have to learn the material.
That's just a picture of the draft binder or the plan binder that we give them with all the tabbies, and they get to take it, and they never had something like this. And if they have anything in writing from their advisor, they don't understand it. This is the first time they have the opportunity to understand their money for multiple reasons. One, we made it clear, but more importantly, we spent the time and energy to go through the process to make sure, because this is our value. What do you really have to sell? It's yourself. Well, it's hard to sell just yourself in this business. So we don't sell ourselves. We sell a plan. That's what we're selling. We're selling an actual, tangible piece, a document that is their plan, that now they don't have to put their trust in Dan and Jim or anyone else. Because putting your trust about your money and your security for the rest of your life in one person is hard. We tell them we don't want them to trust us first. We want them to trust their plan. Once they trust their plan and understand their plan and implement the plan, then they can trust us. So it's plan first, us second. And then it starts resonating, because what we're also saying is you shouldn't be trusting the person that you're working with right now because they didn't give you a plan. Why would you trust your future on someone, not just because you like them, but on someone that hasn't even done any work to show you that you're going to be financially secure, has not proved it to you? Then we tell them, go home, we're going to schedule a meeting, and sometimes they'll say, okay, we just schedule it next week. Sometimes they go, oh my God, I need 2 weeks to cover this. So whatever, and then we set the next meeting, and then that would be the 5th meeting. And the 5th meeting then is going to be a really important meeting, because this is then plan questions, clarification, modifications, and then ultimately they will push themselves. You don't, they'll push themselves into, typically, that's the meeting they make a decision, okay? So, well, why don't you go through then what we start with?
Again, we start with the same thing, we asked the client to come out, tell me what you've been doing over the last week or so. Did you end up going to Tahoe like you said you're going? And did you see the grandkids soccer game like you mentioned? Because remember, we're keeping top notes after every meeting. We know exactly what we asked them previously and what they said. We bring that up. We want them to think that they're the only client in the world to us. We want them to have that feeling. Again, we'll tell them a story if they won't say anything, right? We're going to get them to laugh. We're going to get them to start talking about themselves. Again, we're going to go through the plan again. Now, they've taken the binder home, so they got that black binder home. When they took it home, we asked them to put Post-its or stick-ums on the things that they didn't understand, or things they might want to change, or things that they just had concerns about. When they come in, we can look at the binder. Hopefully they have stick-ums. Do we want to see those stick-ums? We want to see that they went through it. That just says they're going to do business with us 100% if they went through it. Now, if they didn't go through it, we're going to go through it with them again, just to make sure they understand it. If they've actually put the little Post-its on the pages, we said, I can see you put Post-its there. I said, you have any questions that you want to ask me up front, or would you like to start going through the questions you have in the binder? Oh yeah, let's go through the questions in the binder. And they'll pull up the binder, they'll go to a page. I have a question on the annuity here. I didn't quite understand in this illustration what this meant. We'll bring it up on the big screen. We'll go through it very thoroughly again. I had a question here on the income. The income looks like it went up here on my IRA. Why did it go up? I said, because when you turn 73, your required minimum distribution has to be taken out. So we've adjusted that for you on the income plan. So we'll go through it, right? We'll spend as much time to go through it. It's just solidifying that what we did is exactly what needed to be done to accomplish all their goals. We don't ask the client for the sale. The client will tell us that they want to do business with us. And I have a little exercise that goes through on a whiteboard to get them. If they don't know how to say it, my little exercise on the whiteboard forces them to either say, I want to do business with you, or they don't say anything. We don't ask them, right? And then we just say, what we have done and why we've done it. We explain, our buckets, why we go through the red bucket, the green bucket, and the yellow bucket, and why we place money in those buckets, because you told us, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, that this is what you wanted your money to do for you, and that's all we've done for you. We just put it together in detail for you that you've never had before, but this is just a detailed summary, your plan of what you told us, that you wanted your money to do for you. So as we go through this process, we ask them, are there any questions at all that you have if they haven't already said, I want to do business with you? By this time, 90% of them have already said they want to do business with you. And again, our overview, of course, is that we have a strict procedure, and it's compliant. Imagine yourselves with a regulator in 3 years from now. And they're going to go back and look at all your client files. And by the way, everybody has that risk, because if you're in the business doing business, the regulators eventually will come in and look at what you're doing, particularly if you're doing any volume. Imagine them looking at your files. I hope your files are well built. But at the same time, imagine those regulators looking at our files. You know, did we do what's in the best interest of the client, right? Not only was it suitable, was it in the best interest, which is it's a different set of laws. We can go through from A to Z, from the time that client met with us, all the notes we have in Copy Talk, exactly why we built the plan. Why did we put the money in annuity? Why did we put that much money in annuity? How much risk did the client want? What did they acknowledge they wanted? How did we get the risk down? Where was the risk before? How did we improve that risk? Well, we did this and that. We have a super defensible position no matter who comes in and looks at our set of books, right? And I even if you do nothing else, you should follow this process just for compliance reasons. Again, we're 100% disclosure at all times, and our goal in the process is to make sure that everything that client has asked us to do for them, and we brought that out to them, right? Sometimes the clients say, "What do you want your money to do for you?" Well, I think I want it to grow, or I want some income, and we'll say, okay, let's look at this, because this is part of the planning process. We can't build a plan until you identify specifically what you want your money to do for you. So we'll set them up. We'll say, okay, are you concerned about risk? Oh yeah, I'm concerned about risk. Okay. What about income? Are you concerned about your income lasting risk? Oh yeah, I want that. So you can set them up. You'll get them to talk about their objectives in that first meeting, and you'll lay those out for them. And all you're going to do is answer those questions. You go through the process.
So then I'll go through then one thing that Jim talks about. He actually does a lot of it's on the board. I just try to create a PowerPoint mechanical version. But the whole goal from going through data is to let them know that if you look at the last 3 bullet points, the main goal of our design is to assure security and safety of clients' money. Separation of power with safeguards, walls between the advisor, money manager, custodian, insurance company. Because we know right now they're thinking about making a decision, and now we're thinking, okay, how do I get the money to these guys, and is it safe? Key point, only clients have authority to withdraw funds. So we go over again our asset platform details designed again to safeguard clients' assets. So let's say I go this through for a client and say, okay, I'm your advisor, and I'm the president of Peak Financial, and that's what I do. I am your advisor. What does that mean? Well, Peak Financial is a company I own, and it provides you your written plan design. Our advisory firm for managed assets, you're going to see this name, and it's something in your binders can already be in there. We're going to give you our, ADV, etc. It's called Fiduciary Solutions. It's a separate company for Peak because for regulatory rules, we have to have our assets under management company separate from Peak Financial. But this is our red bucket. And then fixed index annuities, incomes options, that's our green bucket. That's going to be under Peak Financial. So if you see those names, it's still myself and my partner, but you'll see different names. And then what are my jobs as your advisor? First of all, which we did at the beginning, determine your goals and needs. Analyze current assets for your risk, fees, use, and income, which we did. Educate you and provide you options to meet your goals. Plan design is your income, your tax, your risk, your legacy, your fee plan, and your written plan. Then I'm going to create your new portfolio using our 3-bucket syndrome or system, which includes red bucket growth, green bucket principal protection income, and our gold bucket liquid assets. Then as I design your plan, I'm going to pick specific red, green, and gold buckets and amounts in each one. So we're going to decide how much money is going to go in the red bucket. We're going to use a money manager. It's going to be chosen for risk mitigation. Decide how much money goes into the green bucket for principal protection and your lifetime income, but we're only going to use A&A plus rated carriers that have been in business since before 1929. And then you're going to use your bank for a gold bucket. That's how the money is going to ultimately be allocated. Now, at some point then you decide, are we going to implement your full plan? And then we're going to do ongoing reviews, because this isn't just that I set up your plan. Once we set up your plan, then we're going to do ongoing annual reviews to make sure that your plan is working and make any necessary adjustments that are needed to keep you secure. So how do we use then our 3 buckets, and how does it really work? How is your money transferred, etc.? And what does Peak do with this? Well, no funds are held at Peak Financial by Jim Files or myself. It'll be in your 3 buckets. So your bank money, liquid money, it's your savings, checking, CDs, money markets. It's going to be held at your bank. And your bank is going to provide statements, any guarantees, hold funds, and gives you the income out of it. Well, what about the green bucket? That's going to be your fixed index annuity. We're going to use only A&A plus rated carriers that have been in business since 1929. The fixed index annuity, I'm your agent in this case. I'll be the one that will communicate to the insurance company for you, or you can. And the insurance company, not us, is going to provide you statements, income, guarantees, and hold your funds. Peak never touches these funds. It goes directly to one of these large A plus rated carriers that's been doing business for basically 100 years. How about your growth assets? That's going to be your money in the market, the red bucket. And your custodian is going to be LPL Financial. They have 22,000 advisors. They have over 4.5 million individual investors, so they're huge. And the money manager is going to be White Rock Capital Management. Their goal is to design the portfolios. The investment advisor representative is me, and that's through my company called Fiduciary Solutions. And LPL is the company, the big, huge company, is going to be the one that provides you your statements, income, and holds your funds. And that's where you get internet access to see what your positions are in any given day. So you can see that the whole premise here is none of your money is going to be held by Peak, by Jim, by myself. It's all at your institutions. All we do is make sure that your plan is allocated properly in your 3 buckets. Any of the things on this one? Okay.
So White Rock Capital Management, why did we choose them? We chose it for risk reduction. Dan and I were intricately involved in making sure that the design was going to meet what we wanted the client's potential return as well as drawdown would be in a portfolio. Again, we select from 12 actively managed portfolios, including a model comprised of just ultra-short U.S. Treasury bonds and short duration AAA corporate bonds. We mechanically operate the asset management system. I shouldn't say yes, White Rock does. It's all mechanically. There's no emotional decision being made. It's all with data. It's all with science. It's all with math. The algorithm monitors the portfolio to take emotions out of that decision. Again, it's all done with mechanics. The investment allocation is focused on momentum. All the algorithm is doing is tracking the technical data and determine where we have momentum at the end of each month. So on the first of the month, it said, okay, the momentum might be in U.S. Treasury bonds. It might be in ultra-short U.S. Treasury bonds, which is cash. Or it may be in equities one month. So it's just tracking momentum. The portfolio is remodeled again at the first day of every month. Within the first hour of the opening bell, the model makes the changes. For the new generation portion of the model, which includes stocks and ETFs and treasury bonds, it's looking at 44 different ETFs and stocks, and it's picking the 8 that have the most momentum on that given day, which is the first of the month. There's no trading cost. The fee that you're being charged for assets under management covers everything, and it covers our fee, it covers the money manager fee, it covers the custodian fee, and it covers the trading cost. Whether it trades 10 times or 1,000 times, you're not charging any more money. And again, each day, fail-safe software is run over each one of the client models. If the momentum changes in the course of the month and changes to negative, the system will automatically move you out of the market and move you into a cash position until the end of the month. And then on the first day of the next month, it'll determine should you stay in cash or should you move back in the market. And clients have access again to all the online real-time reporting that you would have with any custodian. Again, we're using LPL. They're one of the top 3 custodians out there. And so, real-time data is accessible to you. You'll have a username and password to allow you to get into that.
That went too fast. That was the second page.
Oh.
So you can get the axe.
Oh, go ahead. You can go through that.
The red bucket, the third-party custodian. The custodian acts as a security guard and monitors your managed funds, assures only you can authorize funds to be removed from the account. Strict security compliance for clients' monies at all times. All trading activities done by the custodian. We don't do the trades. Money manager doesn't do the trades. The custodian does. They're the only ones that can make these things. All client reporting is provided by the custodian, including online access. Money manager, White Rock, all they can do is relay trades to the custodian. Peak Financial has no access to the funds. So we cannot say, oh yeah, send us extra money out of your account. Only you can direct money is being withdrawn from your account. The green bucket is the insurance company, the fixed index annuity. Strict criteria. We only use A&M plus rated carriers that have been in business since before the Great Depression. Selection of individual FIAs based on multiple factors. One is we use third-party software, Annuities Genius, best product options, unbiased and accurate. Review and analysis by our IMO, True Choice. Direct contact with the insurance carriers ourselves, data and software they provide us. And we have 60 years of combined experience in annuity business that allows us to now help pick what's best for the success of the plan. The FIAs, remember, what they're going to provide is a guaranteed pension-like lifetime income. Your income will never run out, whether it's single or joint, for as long as at least one of you is living if you're married. 100% principal protection against all stock market losses. They're going to have multiple index strategies, which we'll review every 1 to 2 years, depending on what strategy you choose, that have potential upside. And unlike old annuities in the past, all remaining account balances, when you pass away, are passed on to your beneficiaries. And the FAA specifics are, we have an annual fee in this particular plan, or we don't. The annual fee is, let's say, is 1.1%. We talked about, you just can't take a lump sum out of the whole plan for 10 years. That's your surrender period. And there's no downside risk, but we only get a portion of the gain. So when someone says, what are the negatives? Because it sounds too good to be true, there are negatives in it. We pay a fee, can't take it out in a lump sum, and you're not going to get the full gain of the index or the market for sure inside these plans because we have no downside risk. Next step then, if you do decide to proceed, and again, that's your choice, we're not going to ask you, you have to tell us when you're ready. We'll do these things. We'll collect your driver's license and fill out the client data sheet. We're going to set your next paperwork appointment. We're going to provide you with a copy of our advisor breakup letter and tell you how to use it, when and where to send. So we'll go through our advisor breakup letter with them. At the next meeting, paperwork's going to be completed for you. After all funds have been transferred into our new accounts based on your new plan, we'll schedule your plan and policy delivery, which we call graduation day. During your plan and policy delivery meeting, current plan will be updated with the exact dollar amounts of transfer because they're going to be different than what we originally estimated because the market's gone up and down, or you've added contributions, or you've taken money out. We're going to create a 12 to 24-page written document that's going to be prepared and read out loud to you, signed by myself or my partner, signed by you, and the annuity contract will be presented and covered during this meeting. So we're going to cover a lot of data in your graduation day. And ultimately then at this point, they'll say, they would have probably already said, what's the next step? They'll say, okay, how do we proceed? Or I'm ready to proceed. Let's get this going. I'm ready. We're glad we're finally, at this point. And then that point, okay, what I'm going to go over with you then, I'm going to give you a copy and we'll email this to you. It's called our advisor breakup letter because we know the hardest thing for you to do in this entire planning process isn't the plan. It's how do you now tell your old advisor you're no longer going to be using them because you've had them for 20 years. You have a close personal relationship. You view your advisor as your friend and they've treated you that way. They've been a really nice person, but they haven't provided you the financial services you've needed to feel secure now. They helped you get here, which is wonderful. They made a lot of money along the way, which is great. And they provided you a lot of service, which is wonderful. But at this point now, we have to sever that relationship and go into a plan that's going to provide you retirement security, which we've done through your written plan. So we're going to provide you this. We'll email it to you. You then can customize it. We're going to customize it a little bit, but you get to customize it. And then what you'll do is on the day that we're going to go to cash, meaning on the day we're going to take your money out of the market and just put it in cash, being ready to be transferred, we want you to email this to them before we go to cash because we want to give them the respect of knowing you're making changes. We don't believe it's in your best interest to call them because it's going to be very confrontational. You're going to be very nervous. We definitely don't advise that you meet with them in person because it's going to be very confrontational. You're going to feel very nervous. So once you have decided, as you have now, that you want to move forward, this is the best way. And I always joke with clients, and I tell you that if for some reason you want to break up with me in the future, just send this letter to me because this is a very nice letter. We wrote it to be very respectful of your current advisor. So I'm going to read it out loud to you. Dear Nathan, let's pretend that's your client's, your advisor's name. Dear Nathan, we'd like to thank you for all the work you've done for us. You and your staff have been delightful to work with, and we sincerely thank you for that. We've decided to make a change to how our money will be managed in the future, so we wanted to give you the courtesy of letting you know at this time we'll no longer be in need of your services. Our decision has nothing to do with you or your staff. We've enjoyed our relationship very much. But after analyzing our financial objectives, we firmly settled on a different approach on how we want to plan our retirement. As you know, we have been retired for many years, or we're just retiring. We have found that as time has gone on, we've become more and more anxious about our money, so we decided to make changes to how we're planning our finances. Because of the uncertainties associated with being retired without a comprehensive retirement plan, feeling very vulnerable about the stock market, feeling that we are taking too much risk, we've decided to move in a different direction. What causes us most concern is the equity risk we have in our portfolio, not having any downside protection if the market drops in the future. We were able to review each mutual fund we own and discovered that they lost substantial value in 2008, 2009 during the last market crash. We felt it was very important to have a full written retirement income plan and not just invest our money in the market or annuities. We've entered a stage of our life where principal stability and safety comes before growth. As such, we sought out a firm that works exclusively with seniors and provides comprehensive retirement income planning. We've spent many, many hours with them constructing a detailed financial plan. The firm has provided us a complete written plan that details all elements of future income, future tax consequences, future beneficial projections, future portfolio analysis, fee analysis, risk analysis, a summary of other research and reports that we feel is very important. This decision to move our money has been a comprehensive process which we have spent substantial time reviewing and understanding. Because we have thoroughly thought through each element of our decision, we please ask you to respect our final decision and let this letter serve as our last communication. We have enjoyed our relationship and thank you very much for the friendship you extended us. And we thank you personally for your attention to our account. Wish you nothing but the best in the future. Sincerely, William and Lorraine. So, based on how you're doing your practice now, if you got this letter, what are you going to do? You're going to say, okay, I surrender. You're not gonna call the client, you're gonna try to talk them into it because you haven't done these things, and that's why we point out all the things we've done for the client, because we already know the hardest thing for the client to do first is to decide to break up with their advisor. Second is to actually break up with the advisor. So we have to provide a very easy way for them to do it. And we have to make sure the advisor knows they have not done any of the things that they should have already been doing for the client. Okay? And I'd say if we send out 100 of these, it's a miracle if even one advisor tries to get that client back.
Yeah.
Usually the advisor will actually send a nice letter. So they don't use this as their last communication. They'll say, I understand, it's been wonderful to work with you. Thank you very much. I wish you nothing but the best. If you need any help, please let me know. Literally.
They don't want to be sued at that point, right? Because the other advisor didn't do any of this stuff. The other advisor think, I didn't do any of this stuff, and I charged them a fee. They're not going to try to get them back in place. So this works, again, it's just a process. It's part of the process. You deliver this to your client. It's in Word. You tell your client that they can edit it any way they want. They usually don't touch it. And they put it in their email and they send it and it's done. The other advisor isn't kind of try to unsee.
If we didn't do this, I think we would lose 25% of the cases we're putting through.
Yeah. Because
the other advisor would pounce on them, and with no reason, how is the client going to explain all these things to them? Once we show the client we have this advisor breakup letter, there's this huge relief literally lifted off them. 200 pounds goes off their body because they want to move to us so bad, but they can't help thinking they have this loyal relationship to this other advisor and they don't know how to get out of it. This gives them the key to get out of that relationship. And then we end the meeting by saying, okay, great, we're so happy we get to move forward with your plan. We're going to verify again that it meets all the wants and needs that we've established, and are there any other changes we need to make? Great, perfect. Have any other questions or concerns? Gather all the data for them, their licenses, all the information, social security numbers, dates of birth, beneficiaries, etc. Make sure you have all the up-to-date statements so you can use those for the transfer. Schedule the paperwork meeting. And then basically this entire process we go through it because it makes the client feel comfortable to move forward. And I wrote a little note to make sure that we talk about, and that is, you have to remember the most important thing is, this is not their financial plan. This is not their investments. This is not their retirement plan. This is their life. Okay? This is their entire life. You're wrapping yourself into your life. Tell you a quick story of a client that I can't even believe they did this, but they've been watching Jim and I on the TV for like 2 years. So it's funny because they kind of think like they already know us, even though they don't. They called me and said, it was a Tuesday. We need to come in and meet with Dan on Wednesday. Thank God we had a place. Because we have to make that big decision by Friday. And I'm like, oh God, what is this going to be? Because that's a nightmare. You're going to put some pressure on us. Well, they came in, and they're young, 55 and 56, and he wants to retire at the end of this year. But more importantly, they have a house they want to buy in Idaho where their family lives, and they want to make an offer on it by Friday. And they want to know if they can, and they have $1 million house here. They want to buy a $1.5 million house in Idaho, and they want an answer by Thursday, should they make the offer on the property. Only choice I had was to say, okay, I'm going to do a whole plan. Instead of in 5 meetings, I'm going to do a whole plan for myself and see if I can verify it. I went through, did the whole plan, verified that I felt 100% confident it was going to work. Texted the guy and said, listen, I actually had to do a whole plan to be able to give this answer. Sorry it took me a while to get back to you, but I need to make sure I felt comfortable giving you this news. And the news is, yes, I feel 100% comfortable. You can move forward and buy the house. And this is with them knowing they're going to take on $1 million loan on the new house. Didn't find out what happened. They called in 2 weeks later, came in, they met with them yesterday, and we're talking. They go, what happened? They go, oh yeah, we bought the house. I'm like, oh my God. So they bought the house just from the feeling they had that we were going to act in their best interest and provide them the data. And now I'm backfilling and having to go through all these steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, with them to make the plan. But that changed their life. Now, how about we go into number 6? This is the paperwork and suitability. We think this is, potentially one of the most important parts because of 2 things. One, we got to make sure the paperwork's done for the plan to get implemented, but we got to make sure everything's suitable because everything is being focused more and more. We already knew what was coming down the pipe when it came to how much compliance and suitability there's going to be associated with just being in our joint business. So what happens is then we've created from February 11th last year, I think it was the DOI came out and said, we have a rollover suitability scenario that we have to run, and it's really based on qualified funds, IRAs, 401ks, etc. We expand it, and we do this form for every single asset. And we went to our attorney back then, our SEC attorney, and said, okay, what should we be doing? Can you create a form? They go, we have no idea what the new law means. So we're like, are you kidding? So between our compliance head, Adam Harden, ourselves doing research, we said, okay, what do we really need to go the extra mile to make sure we are being more than compliant and start being compliant immediately? We were in compliant as of February 11th last year. No one else was.
Nope.
There's literally no one in the United States that was compliant as of February 11th of 2022. We were. So we created, after we did all our own research, we created about a 14 or 15 page document. Because what the Department of Labor SEC wants to do is if they audit you, they want to come in and instead of having all the data in your file, which you might have, they want it in one document so it makes it easy for them to figure out immediately, were you acting in the client's best interest? Can you prove it? And what did you actually do for the client? Okay? They want to make it easy to catch you. So we're going to make it easy for them to say, oh my God, we can't catch these guys. Next, let's go audit someone else. So we feel that there's certain things you have to do. One of the rules is you can't just say you're a fiduciary. You have to state specifically in writing that you are acting as their fiduciary, which is the ERISA fiduciary acknowledgement, and put down what that means. You then also have to, because another part that everyone is overlooking is they are stating that you have to tell the client that you are entering into a perpetual relationship as far as you're concerned with the client. What does perpetual mean? It never ends. You cannot enter in a single sales transaction sales process. So we're stating that specifically. And then we're stating if it doesn't last forever, then we're assuming it's going to last for a minimum of 10 years, our relationship with you. Okay? Then we're going to put down that everything you read about, you have to show that you've provided the necessary services and you spent sufficient time and were thoughtful in the process. So this page allows us to let us write in how many times we met with the client, how many hours face-to-face or web meeting and or phone calls did we spend with the client, how many hours did we spend working on their plan when they weren't here just to design the plan, how many hours did our team spend on the plan, and how many more hours are we going to spend putting the plan together. When the SEC or the state sees this, they're going to see we spent ungodly amount of time designing this plan. Then the nightmare begins. A lot of people thought you could just put their whole portfolio together and do an analyzation. We don't think that's what it's saying. We think it's saying you have to analyze every single effort, every single asset. So each one of these columns you're seeing going up and down is an individual asset. So there's 6 of them. If you have more than 6, which I've had, I think up to 15, that you've had the same, you have to do 3 of these pages. This is just one of your pages. The first reason you have to come up with is the reason the client came to you, transferred, rollover. So you put the client, the plan type, the approximate value, the employer, custodian, the account number. Then what was the event trigger? Was it change of employment, retirement, termination of the plan, in-service distribution, creation of a risk reduction plan, creation of a confidential retirement plan? You just check the box. And then reason they came to us. Was it because they don't want the assets for the old firm? Yes. Employer terminating plan? No. Dissatisfied with investment options? Yes. Lack of education? Yes. Lack of understanding? Lack of communication? Dissatisfied with investment performance? The risk, the volatility, the fees? Wants a lifetime income option? Wants to consolidate assets? Wants assets to be part of a comprehensive plan? Prefers professional advice? Doesn't want to self-manage? Dissatisfied with the amount of worry? Lack of holistic planning? Lack of written plan? Lack of tax planning? Lack of beneficiary planning? Lack of fee understanding? Lack of written risk understanding? Lack of income planning? Lack of investment planning? You're going to do a check in each one of these. So do you think then that's going to start pointing out why they came to you in the first place? They were completely unhappy with what they had. And then the description of the current portfolio, original investment goals, they desired high growth and accepted high risk. Tolerated moderate to high volatility, didn't need assets for income, didn't need guaranteed or dependent income, didn't worry too much about losses, had time on their side, accepted a 5-year or longer recovery period, willing to write out large losses, making periodic investments to help smooth out the risk. Asset looks at individually before, no plan, higher growth, higher risk, no income. Then the current portfolio summary, we're going to now enter in for each one, how much risk do they have in each account? How much could they have made on the upside and how much could they lose on the downside? Is it managed or self-managed? What's the advisor fee? What's the fund fees? What's internal trading costs? What's additional fees? What's the portfolio made up of? Stocks, bonds, mutual funds, REITs, cash, variable annuity, fixed annuity, life insurance. Portfolio access, is it liquid without penalties or are there penalties and how much are the penalties? If it's a pension rollover, you got to list why you're doing this. And then now we go into why we're doing it. What are our summary recommendations? We're going to say see our plan allocation and see the plan fee analysis. But the new investment goals are They want moderate growth and without excessive risk, yes. They want to reduce volatility, yes. Potential reduction of large losses, yes. Potential reduction of high overall portfolio risk. Generate income now and in the future. Generate dependable income. Generate guaranteed lifetime income. We check that box for the FIAs. Not worried about large losses. Don't have time to recover. Can't accept a 5-year potential recovery period now they're retired. Doesn't want to write out large losses. Not making new investments any longer to smooth out risk. Assets are part of an overall plan. Preserve principal, dependable income, all of it will be yes. Preserve principal, guaranteed income, check that box for annuities. Understand fees with transparency. Full written comprehensive plan. Then recommended investments use. Are we going to keep some of that asset in liquid bank, pay off debt, pay taxes, large purchases, self-managed assets? Then if we're going to manage some of those assets, who's the manager? Are we going to use a fixed index annuity? What's the company? Generate income now or in the future. Dependable income, guaranteed lifetime income, not worry about large losses, not have time to recover. Can't accept a 5-year, doesn't want to write out large losses, not making new investments, etc. Guaranteed annual income based roll-ups, potential long-term care benefits, and potential lifetime income increases. You're going to check all this. Then we're going to fill out this. If we're going to use assets under management, we're going to fill out the top part. What's our fee? What's our money management fee? What are the estimated exchange traded fund costs? What's the estimated trading cost? What's the maximum drawdown risk on our portfolio? What's the trailing 12-month return net of fees? If we use an annuity or annuities for them, we're going to fill out this in the bottom. Does it have a guaranteed lifetime income rider? Yes, if it does. Is it single or joint? And how much income is it going to be? And when you plan to take the income? Income can't be reduced or terminated for as long as you live. Opportunity for increased to guaranteed income. If yes, check it. Provides opportunity for long-term care. If yes, check it. Provides guaranteed annual roll-ups. If yes, check it. If applicable, how many years you got to wait to take income? What's your current fee? What's the guaranteed fee? How many years surrender charge? Is it reasonable they can expect a 3 to 5% return on this? How much do they keep in the bank and how much do they have self-managed? Then we're going to do the alternatives of their investments. They can leave the money at the current employer, what that means. They can move to a new employer custodian, what that means. They can self-manage account, they can cash out their plan, and we advise them to do tax advice, and we talk about liquidation costs. Second section from the bottom, we're going to list out what their total estimated current plan fees are, what their estimated recommended plan fees are with us, and then the bottom is going to show what their current risk is in the portfolio, what their recovery gain is, what their risk is with our plan, what their recovery gain is. Then we're going to go through all the services we offer are in the blue. And then we're going to check the boxes of the services they currently have with their current plan. And typically, out of all those 60 different services we offer, we might check 3 of the boxes, which is important because you're going to show, look at all the things we're providing, your current planner isn't providing, that's why you switched over to us. And when the SEC or auditor see this, you're going to say, okay, we get it. Then we're going to list out the rollover transfer of the investments are in your best interest and why. We're going to then show them what we think is very important. This is reasonable compensation. You have to be able to prove reasonable compensation. Remember, we talked about how we view our relationship being a minimum of 10 years. We're going to put down exactly how we're going to get compensated. So in the managed portfolio, you can see in the middle, it's going to show that average compensation for the next 10 years is 1.25. Why? Because every year we're getting paid 1.25%. On the annuity, our average compensation is 1.17 for the next 10 years. Why? Because up front, we're getting the 7.15%, and you can't, that's not our commission, but you have to estimate what all the soft dollars you're getting. So not only to your commission, you have to estimate if they're paying for any marketing. You have to estimate any services they provide you. Other provide you professional services such as software, education, tax and legal advice, all those. You have to add in trips. You got to add in everything there and estimate what your total compensation is, even if you don't receive it. And then we have our trails of 0.5% per year. So we divide that, add them together, divide it by 10, and our average compensation is 1.117% per year for the next 10 years. So does that look reasonable? I think it looks very reasonable. Then we go over the IRS rules as far as disclosing advantages, disadvantages of rolling over money. We're cashing it out, rolling over, we put that in there. And then by law, you just have to keep this in your file. Don't worry about it. You don't have to keep this in your, that's all you have to keep it in your file. You don't have to give it to the client, but we think best practice is for us to sign it, to get the client to sign it, and then give them a copy of this. And when you go through this, you think, oh my gosh, all this disclosure is going to freak out the client. Does this freak out the client?
They love it. They it just reconfirms all the work that you've done on behalf of the client. And a lot of you saying, God, that's so much more work. God, all this stuff they're doing. We can do I can do 2 IRAs, a trust account, a non-qualified account. Those 4 of those columns, I can do it less than a half an hour. Is it worth it? You darn right it's worth it. Just the fact that the client is seeing you're even doing more to assure that what you've done is in their best interest, but as important as that is that in 4, 5, or 6 years, If we get audited again and a regulator comes in here and they ask us, where's your rollover documentation? And all of you say, well, what's that? We pull out to them for them. So you need to figure out how to stay compliant at the same time doing what's in the best interest of your client.
So this is, I think, at the beginning, of course, you all think, because we told you it's for compliance and disclosure, but it actually is the best single sales tool you have. Because what do you think the SEC and FINRA and State Department and the regulators, they want you to prove that what you've done is in the client's best interest. What do you think the client wants? The client wants you to prove you've done what's in their best interest because no one else has done that. What do you think happens when you've proven that you've done that? You now are their client for the rest of their lives, or their advisor for the rest of their lives. That's pretty cool, and clients love it. And we tell them, we spent a lot of time putting that together, and we go through the process of how we designed it. So you've done everything, the paperwork's done. Now that big problem's going to be from the time you do the paperwork to the time the money transfers over. The soonest it could be would probably be 6 weeks, maybe 2 months, maybe 3 months, as far as getting everything on, policies issued, money switched over to the asset management, everything. And you explain that it is going to take that amount of time, but then you're going to come back in for your final plan delivery, which we call your graduation. So before the client comes in for this meeting, we've redone their entire plan. Because you think about it, what we've given them so far are all numbers based on the original amounts on their portfolios, and all those numbers have changed over the last 1, 2, 3, or 4 months. So now we have to redo their entire plan and enter in all the new data as far as how much actually transferred over to the money under management, how much do they have in the bank, how much money actually transferred over to the annuities, all those. So you redo the whole plan, and we prepare a new binder for them. They come in, and it's weird at the beginning. Almost every meeting at the start of this final plan delivery, it's weird because you were seeing these people each week for like 6 or 8 weeks in a row. She became really close. Now you haven't seen them for a month, 2 months. It feels weird. It's like, okay, I got to meet this person again. Well, then you have to spend a significant amount of time catching up on what they've done over the last 2 months. You let them know what's happened in your life over the last 2 months, because you got to start with that relationship again. It's been a long time, so tell them it's awesome that their entire plan's completed. How do you feel now that we're close to the finish line? We call this graduation day, and then we tell them what to expect. We're going to first answer any questions they have, then we're going to go through their entire written plan, and we're going to explain and read it out loud to them. We've already signed it as their advisor. We're going to have you sign it. We're going to make that part of your plan. We're going to put a new binder together with all the new up-to-date numbers, and we're going to deliver your annuity policies. If you have an annuity plan, we'll go over the money management and answer any other questions, and at that point then you would have been graduated. We're going to read out loud. It could take anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour. We're going to read out loud, which they're completely blown away that we actually will do this for them. We're not just handing them their written plan. We're going to read out loud that 20 to 24 page written document, the narrative we've written. It's going to explain everything. It's going to explain where they were when they came in, the risks, the fees, what their goals were, and how they weren't attaining their goals, how we accomplished their goals, the advantages, the disadvantages in writing of their plan, the costs and fees of the new plan, the risk of their new plan, the plan steps and execution process, when they're going to use each of the assets for income, explanation of each product in detail. Then it's going to explain the FIA policy. Then we're going to explain, after going through that, the FIA policy, and sign the delivery receipt, sign all additional disclosure documents that we'll show you in a second, and go through the entire process. Now, when we go through this, we have fulfilled every single promise we made to them. Every single promise. Now, how many times can they ever say another advisor has ever actually exceeded every single promise that they've been made? They can't. We know we can say that easily. And this would then just be a facsimile of what the plan would look like. 12 to 24 pages can be written out. We're going to read the whole thing, and they're just amazed you go through it. In fact, when you go through this process, it's going to be very emotional to them when you go through this, because they had hoped that you would follow through on all your promises, but they don't think you will. They don't think we will. Right? They like us, they trust us, but they don't think we're going to do everything we ever said. When we read their plan out loud and they understand it, and we proved that we love them enough to take them through a process where they finally will understand their money for the first time, and it's in writing so they can remember it and review it. It actually, some of them will start crying because they never thought they'd get to this point in their life with their money. Literally, it relieves all the pressure off of them. Then we're going to do some other things that no one else does, and you have access to this. Oh, you also have access to samples of these plans that then you can use as reference, and then do them for your own clients. You can take this in their Word on the site and then just redo it, so you don't have to learn the whole thing. Because writing out a 12 or 24 page document, if you don't have this, it would take you about 2 years. This way, it won't take you that long, right? Just use our templates and then modify them for yourself. Then we do other things that sets us head and shoulders above. And one of the advisors we just met with down in Arizona, as we did the high-level training for the current advisors, he really likes our Bill of Rights. And there's multiple ways you can use it. We use it typically at this point because we say, okay, now we're going to sign our Bill of Rights. This is going to put in writing all the promises I made you originally about what I was going to do for you up to this point and what I'm going to do for you going forward. It also has you commit that you're going to meet with me at least once a year. It also has our privacy policy in here. We cannot use any of your data. And then we sign it as your advisor. You sign it as the client. And this is your Bill of Rights. It tells you in writing what we're promising to do for you. This other advisor, he always uses it on the front end. He always goes through this in detail at the front end, which I think is a great idea. In fact, we originally implemented for that, but then we got so slammed, we put it on the back end. But I think using it at the front end is great as a client Bill of Rights. Then we have a conflicts of interest disclosure. This is another thing that just came back because what happened 4 years ago, they're bringing back to the forefront. Oh, we're going to look at suitability and FIAs and assets under management for all these people doing all these IBRA and 401k rollovers. But 4 or 5 years ago, it also was conflicts of interest was a huge thing. That just came back out in the press again. So we went to our attorney 5 years ago and said, okay, can you design a conflict of interest disclosure for us? They go, we have no idea how to do that. The SEC attorney didn't know how to do it. So I said, okay, we'll do it ourselves. So we wrote up a 5-page list of every potential. We don't necessarily have all these, but we think you have to disclose every potential conflict of interest you might have. So we did that, and we had the client sign it saying, yes, we disclose this, and we give you a copy of it. Then we have, at this meeting that we do, we now go into something that's more fun called bobbleheads. So basically, we tell the client, you know what, our goal has always been to enhance your lives, and you've seen how hard we've worked to create your retirement income plan so that you can live the retirement of your dreams. Travel, remodels, new houses, cars, education, gifting, family, friends, getting in shape, partying, helping charities. Well, we want to do all those things with you, okay? We want you to do them all, but we want to be with you when you do these things. So like, what are you talking about? So we're going to introduce you to our bobbleheads, your adventures with little Danny and little Jimmy. And you're part of our family now, we want to be part of your family. So what we want you to do is, and I give them my bobblehead or Jim's bobblehead. Sometimes they know us both, so we give them both bobbleheads. But give them a bobblehead, and we then tell them, we want you to take your bobblehead with you when you do your important things in life. If you're going to go to Egypt and ride a camel, we want you to take your bobblehead with you and take a picture of it and send it in to us. We're going to then enter into the contest for the best pictures and the best event or travel. And we have prizes. We're going to put on our website at every client event. We show these pictures. So there's like 200 or 300 pictures of all these clients doing crazy things with our bobbleheads. Because we want them to realize that we helped enable them to do these things by designing their plan. We helped enhance their life. So they go to Tahiti, I'm going to be on the beach with them. If they buy a new car, we joke with them and we say, you know, when you buy your next new amazing car, take us with you to the dealership, sit us down on the salesman desk, make your best offer, let the head bobble, and don't say anything until they agree to your price. Let us be the negotiator. And then don't forget to take the picture with you and your new car, and then send it in to us because we want to enter that into our contest, and we want to show everyone else what you've done. Then you can be like one of our clients. One of our clients, he remembers fondly back in the days where he didn't have, and his family didn't have any money. And his dad had been in the military, and we now work with Toys for Tots, the Marines, and he got a present from Toys for Tots when he was little. So this gentleman basically donated 47 presents to our Toys for Tots campaign. One guy did that. I think we raised like 700 toys last year. He did 40 of them, so it was awesome. And he's then going to take a little picture next year of all the toys he buys with the bobblehead. If you buy a new house, or if you have your kids buy a new house, take a picture of us in the house. If you've helped your grandkid through college, take a picture on graduation day, send it in to us. If you go scuba diving in Tahiti, whatever, take us with you. Just protect us so it doesn't ruin us. If you go in Antarctica, we had a client go to Antarctica. They took us with us in their backpack to Antarctica. If you go skydiving, tape us to you and jump out the plane, fine. If you get married, take us. We want to be part of the wedding party. So we tell them all these things because we want them to realize this is, as I said earlier, their life. We are part of their life now. Contest starts now, so good luck to your investors with us. and then we have a brochure that explains it. We give it to them so they have it and they know it is part of a formal program for us. Then we have another thing we just are using, and it's called our difficult and complicated plans. And 80% of our 80 or 90% of our clients are going to be basic. 10 to 20% are going to have very complicated plans, or they're just complicated individuals. Like Jim had a client come in yesterday that told him, I'm clear with you. I've had 2 advisors in the past. They both fired me because I talked too much and asked too many questions. And they actually told them that.
And I just gave it to our other advisor, Adam.
So we did this because we want them to know that we love them enough to deal with their difficult and complicated plans or personalities, whatever it is. So basically, all of our plans we work with, they require a lot of work, 6 to 8 meetings. 90% of the clients fall within that normal range and we're ready for them, but 10% of them we're not necessarily ready for because they're difficult. So the other 10% are complicated and difficult, either have complex problems that be solved or the stuff's all over the place. So we define it in 2 different ways. Either we define their plan as an alligator, because I tell them, it literally, their plan, putting the plan together was like me having to wrestle with a big mean alligator. And they can imagine that in their minds. Or their plan was like a cage full of wild monkeys. And it was just all over the place and it was very difficult. And they can imagine that in their minds. So we've created awards for those clients who have brought us plans that have, we call it, stretched our brains to the limits. So the first one is we deliver their plan, deliver their bobblehead, then we deliver their next award. And that's basically, the first one is the alligator. The gator, it's like us having to wrestle with a big gator. And we give them a stuffed gator that has all these, I think, 3 or 4 little baby gators inside. And we give them their own stuffed gator to remind them that their previous plan was difficult and that it was very scary, but they're no longer is their plan of money scary. We've tamed it. We've tamed their plan. And they laugh so hard, they take it with them. But then we have the other one, which is like a bunch of monkeys. See the lady inside their car screaming because the monkeys are attacking? That's what they felt their last plan was like. They had to protect themselves from their money, their plan, and their other advisor, literally. So then we give them this little banana. It's a big banana. And it has 4 monkeys inside. And they actually talk. And they say, I'm a monkey, I'm a monkey. So we put their monkeys in their banana and say, now your monkeys are under control. And we tell them they no longer have stuff all over the place. They actually have a plan. And they laugh so hard because they realize it is true. And it makes them feel good that we've done something to fix their monkey problem. Then we end their this meeting, their delivery, and say, you know what, we want to verify that everything has met your wants and needs and we've fulfilled all of our promises. Great, then you've graduated. All that means is we're through this first step. We're going to do annual reviews with you to make sure we keep you on progress. How do you feel about the whole process? Did it meet? Was it under your expectations or over your expectations? Oh, it met and exceeded my expectations. You want them to say that because then you want to give them the zinger, and that is great. I want to thank you for giving me the chance to put your plan together, and just wanted you to know how important referrals are to our business. So if you have friends and family that are like you, that have saved money and want to make sure they're making the right decisions, then you can refer them to us. And you can make it easy. You can refer them to us directly, but that's kind of scary where they have to then call us and set an appointment, meet with a scary Dan dude or their scary Jim dude. Or instead, why don't you just, when you find people and you talk about us, because we know you will, why don't you just call the office and set up a time for you to bring them to our next dinner seminar? You can come get another free dinner. We'll be glad to pay for it for you. You can bring your referral with you. There's no pressure on them or you, and you have a nice time. And it's a great way for you now to understand and be educated again about what we do and validate your decisions, and also now expose your friend to all the data without any pressure on your friend. Does that sound good? Oh yeah, that's great. Can I get a list of the seminar dates? They later will tell you that, or you give them a list of the seminar dates. Anything else you'd add to this last one?
Other than, as I know all of you saying, well, that's a lot of information, right? That's a lot of work. It really isn't. Dan's going through this really quickly with you, all the steps. You got to imagine the client across the table asking us the question. Well, Dan's asking the question and answering the question at the same time, so you guys understand the process here. But when you're in the process, it's very comfortable. It just flows really, really nicely. Now, does this work for someone that has $100,000? No, but we don't want a client that has $100,000. You guys shouldn't either. From a compliance perspective, you guys shouldn't be pitching products, right? This is a planning process.
So how about this to make your point? Do this on a piece of paper. Everyone grab a piece of paper and do a circle and write out the amount of work you do right now. Draw an arrow off the circle and put down your amount of production. To the right of that, draw another circle. Put the amount of work Dan and Jim do, draw an arrow, and put $100 million. Do you understand the point? Is the work we do worth it? Yes, it's more than worth it. We actually are working less than you based on the amount of production we do. Literally. Sound pretty cool, huh?
It is, but also if you look at the work, I don't know how many new prospects you see a week or a month, but it's tough to get in front of prospects. It costs a lot of money to get in front of prospects. So you can sit in front of a prospect and try to close them in 2 meetings, right? Or 3 meetings and blow them out and then sit there for the next week hoping for the next prospect. Or we can sit there and go through 5 or 6 or 7 meetings with them, engage them, build a relationship, show them things they've never seen before, accomplish all their goals. We didn't waste any of the time, right? We just met with the client, and the chances of us acquiring that client is tremendously higher than trying to blow through a client in 2 or 3 meetings.
Talk about it real quick. We'll go through. We have some sample brochures. One of them, we have this Peak Trifold, and we did this little unique thing, and some of the advisors really liked it a lot, where it sets you apart, and you'll change it to yourself. So Bob Smith Financial, we just call it Peak Trifold, Bob Smith Financial, and you can call it the Smith Advantage. How does your advisor stack up? 60-second retirement survival checklist. So we put a check in the boxes of all the things we do. We'll give you a free second opinion about your money in written form. All promises we make to you in writing. We're going to give you a 4-page hard copy bill of rights. We're going to show you the total fees you're currently paying, total fees you're going to pay with our company. Determine and writing down your risk comfort level, risk you're currently taking, we're going to put in writing, the risk you're going to take with our plan in writing. Position your assets to defend against large losses. Determine how long your current assets will last in writing. Provide a written plan illustrating guaranteed income, etc. And then we go through it and we say, okay, which ones of these services is your current advisor providing you? Check the boxes. How many boxes you're really going to have checked there? One, 2, if you're lucky. Most of them are going to be unchecked, which means then they should be willing to listen to you and work with you. And inside of it's just going to have, then we have another brochure. This is a really cool brochure, a Peak Company Process brochure. And someone told me before, if you want someone to read what's inside of a book or brochure, put it on the cover or the back cover. So we do that. We say answers to your toughest retirement planning challenges, Peak Financial, your trusted advisor. And then we put down all the questions we know they have. How long is my money going to last? Can I protect my assets from losses? What if my spouse or I pass away, etc.? And that's what this then brochure is going to answer for them. First page is going to give a little bio about ourselves, going to show our TV show, our radio show, talk about us as founders. You put yourself in here. Then it's going to go into the brochure. You worked, you sacrificed, you saved, you retired, soon to be retired. And then we go through our books we wrote. Then we ask them, is your retirement on track or headed for or derailment? List out why it's important to protect it. Because are you worried? Do you have a clear plan right now? Then we go through our 9-step process. And each page has 1 step of the process. Step 1, create a safe income you can't outlive. 2, defining the true risk you want to take. 3, determining your perfect allocation, managing your income tax efficiency, controlling your direct and hidden investment fees, calculating the amount of current future liquidity you need, preparing to efficiently pass on assets to beneficiaries, finalizing your comprehensive retirement income plan, and number 9, monitoring your plan with review meetings in the future. So you have that, you just design it for yourself. And then some homework pieces, etc. to go through. So I think that's all, David, we're going to cover. So we can, any other comments you want to make?
Nope.
We want to make sure we got through it, but maybe questions, thoughts, David, comments you have. You can stop sharing.
I do have some questions that that have come in over the last couple of days, and also just over the chat, people have been chiming in. I believe it's Miss Khan over here that has been talking about how you guys are a godsend, an amazing duo. A lot of positive comments. I think what's resonating with folks is just what the return on the investment of time is. I got a comment in here. I love the compliance pieces. A lot of enthusiasm around what's been created. And Jim, to echo what you said, you know, for some of us, to the naked eye, this looks like a lot of work. But when you start talking about what the harvest is versus the cost of the seed, it's actually you're working less, Dan, like you said, compared to people. And that it makes a lot of sense. I actually haven't thought of it that way. And Dina, I'm going to ask you to help me if there's any other questions that come through the chat. But got a couple of questions here that had come in. One of them was, very few of my current prospects have worked with an advisor because they're federal employees. What changes, if any, Dan, would you make within the process if this was the case? And does it ever depend on from where you're getting these clients and prospects from?
I think Jim and I both answered those questions. So the first is you're going to put them through the process of the education and the PowerPoint that shows here's what we do. That's going to either qualify them as a potential prospect or disqualify them, right? Just by going through that. Because if that interests them as far as the risk, the fees, the returns, understanding, having a plan, designing the income plan, the taxes, legacy, if that interests them, that means now, boom, okay, they qualify as long as they have enough assets for you to work with. Doesn't matter what type of employee they are. Could be a federal employee, could be a truck driver, could be a UPS driver, could be an accountant, could be a salesperson, could be a doctor, could be an attorney, could be an unemployed person that just has their portfolio now. Anybody qualifies, and we're never going to deviate with the process based on who they are. Could be a business owner. We're not going to deviate. We're going to go through the same. The first thing is, does our philosophy fit? Because if not, we're not going to take you on because we're not going to be good for you. We're going to be honest with them. If you don't agree with this philosophy, it's not saying you're right or wrong. It just says we are not the right planning firm for you, right? Because at some point in your careers, you have to be honest with yourself as an advisor and tell yourself you only want to be in front of the clients that meet your opportunity to provide the best you can give them.
Yeah.
Okay? It doesn't matter. You go through the same process with everyone, and they'll either get weeded out or they'll become part of your funnel, and you have a high probability of bringing them on.
Meeting number one, remember, that's our discovery meeting. And I do this for every single client that walks in. Within the first 3 minutes, I say, what drove you here? Or what did I say at the presentation that you liked? Do you have any questions that you'd like to ask me up front? And I tell them up front, I said, listen, this meeting's for a couple reasons. Number one, I'm going to show you what we do here and give you our philosophy. That's the first PowerPoint presentation, right? You're going to decide after this meeting whether or not you want to come back next time. And then I'm going to decide if this meeting, if I want you back. And I said that very, very nicely. But what you're going to see today is all the steps that we go through and the amount of work that we put into this. And unless you kind of understand our philosophies and agree with them, you're not making a commitment to our firm. And I say, yes, you do understand them and you are on the same plane. There's no reason for either one of us to go through that process. So it kind of takes them back. Secondly, we have these green and yellow folders. And within the first 15 minutes, Dan may not do this, but I do it. I said, what I'd like to do is to get to know you. And I said, if you wouldn't mind, I'm going to ask you some quick questions so I don't deviate and go in the wrong direction and give you some information that may not be pertinent. Would that be okay with you? Oh, that's fine. Boom, 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 boom. I'm filling out my sheet. How old are you? Do you have grandkids? Where do you live? Are you retired? Do you have a trust? How much do you have in your IRA? I said, I just want rough numbers. Boom, 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 boom. In 5 minutes, I know whether or not they qualify, right? I know where I have to go in the direction of that presentation. So it's not that I won't, even if they don't have enough money, I still go through the presentation because they're there. I want to make them feel warm and wanted. And they may know somebody, right? They may not qualify, but they know somebody. And they're going to leave here impressed. I won't just blow them off. I will, even if they don't qualify, I do not blow them off. I'm going to spend an hour and a half with them and I may not have them back to second meeting, right? But I want to make sure that I've done everything possible because they're another marketing avenue for us. They're going to go out and talk to the people that, hey, I didn't qualify with this company, but God, they were great and this is what they do.
So don't think about it that you have to change everything, single thing you're doing. So let's say you market federal employees. Continue to do whatever you're doing, but now write these 5 things down as if you have them on one hand. What if now you look at what you do and don't think, oh my gosh, I have to do everything different. You look at what you do, but now you add things, pretend like you're a car at a dealership, you're going to add some options onto your car. Okay? Number one, what if in the conversation of you marketing for, again, federal employees or whatever the heck each one of you is doing, what if you add the risk conversation to what you're doing? That's not changing what you're doing. It's just another option that makes you better. What if you add the fee conversation to what you're doing?
Yeah.
What if you add the income planning conversation to what you're doing? What if you add the written plan conversation to what you're doing? And what if you add the fact that you're going to help them understand their money better than they ever could to your conversation? If you add those 5 things, are you really changing what you're doing? No. You're just making it flipping so much better.
Yeah, it's additive. Indeed, yeah. Abdur wrote in here, are the White Rock Capital Management proprietary models to peak, and what are the minimums and fees for those models?
They're not proprietary to us. We're able to set you, if you're an IRA, up to be able to use them. If you have an RA, another RA to deal with, we can then get an agreement with that RA to use them. And I believe the minimum, I think you have to have at least 35,000 in one of the portfolios is the new gen one, but we usually say the minimum is $100,000, like most people, to make sure that it's worth your while and worth the client's while and worth White Rock's while.
Right.
Contact Dina. If you're interested, contact Dina. She'll get the data to us. We'll set the White Rock money manager with you guys. And no, it's proprietary to what we're doing here with True Choice, as far as the models.
Got it. One of the questions we got here is, and I think we're talking about maybe the 1% here, a very small percentage, but what if you go through the entire risk conversation and the clients are continuing to tell you that they still want 20 to 30% of risk inside their portfolio as they head into stage 2, that distribution stage?
Well, one of the big things is it's probably, when you break up with somebody and say, it's not you, it's me. At that point,
I've only been broken up with, so I don't know what you're talking about.
And as an advisor, you have to be able to say, it is you, it's probably not them. You've made the mistake of allowing them to continue that process because you haven't drilled down and found out, okay, why are they there? What did they want? What are their goals? You haven't educated and went through and go through. I'll go through the slides over and over again. So I go, okay, so you mean really, you're okay if we have two 50% losses back to back like we had in 2001, 2002, and then 2079. Oh, well, that one happened again. Okay, since you think that, let's go back to the bear markets. How can you say that we're not going to have a big loss on average every 5 years when that's what happened since 1929? And you have to drill down and find out what the goal is. Then you have to drill down and further say, okay, really, or do you both feel this way? If you both feel this way, you're probably not going to get them as a client, which is okay. But then you got to hit what is the purpose of their money? They are still stuck in asset accumulation. Then you go to the asset accumulation stage 1. You go to asset preservation income distribution stage 2. Show them that. Then you look at what they have. Maybe they have $200,000 in pensions, so they don't care. Okay, in that case, maybe they're not going to be your client. Or maybe you then just go straight into the asset management and say, okay, what if then, based on my data here, they really, really, really do just want money in the market? Why then wouldn't we, if we can propose the opportunity to get really close to the same potential gain as you're getting now, maybe higher, but we can reduce your risk at the same time? Are you open to that? So you have to hit it different ways, and it comes down to, I just think, going through back and back, but it is one. So when you're focused on that, you got to get off that because you're not going to have those clients. You don't want those clients. You got to get into the fact that 99 out of 100 people are going to say, I want my risk between 5 and 10% if you do your job properly, and 95% of them are going to want 5% or less risk.
Yeah, it happens 1 in 1,000 times because nobody wants to take excessive risk at 60 years of age or older. They don't want it. Now, if you have a 40-year-old, that's a different story. But again, because we have the AUM platform with White Rock, we can show very, very low drawdowns in comparison to the market, and we can show very reasonable returns. In some cases, returns better than the market, and they reduce the risk. And anybody that says they wouldn't want that, well, you don't want them. They don't have any money to say that.
Last question we got here is with respect to prospecting. Somebody asked, what 2 prospecting methods would you suggest that we start out with?
Introduction, number 1. Period.
We found that the 2 best right now are probably dinner seminars, and the TV is probably doing better for us than anything, but it takes a while to ramp up TV. We're launching a new digital through YouTube, which I think will work, and that might be like a second way. Radio can work, but radio is not as effective as it used to be 5 or even 10 years ago. So I think our 2 biggest are for sure dinner seminars. You have to start there because it doesn't matter who you are, you can do that. You can follow our PowerPoint, you can use the best seminar companies, and you can do that, and you can practice, and then you'll feel like you have some control, because as long as the clients show up and you do a decent job presenting, which you will, you have a high probability of getting some of those people to come to see you, and then if you go through the process, you have a high probability of getting some of those clients to become your clients.
But this is a mistake you make if you do the following. You cannot only do 1 seminar. You cannot only do 2 seminars or 3 or 4. Because you don't know which ones are going to be successful, because we've had times where we've done 2 seminars in a row and we got very little turnout, right? for whatever reason. But the third seminar, we had 50 people show up or 40 people show up, we'll move up 20 appointments. We're gonna tackle this, and remember, when you market, it's not objective, it's subjective, but you have to stick to a marketing plan. You have to say, okay, for the next year, I'm gonna spend X amount of dollars, and I'm gonna do X number of seminars, and you have to do those seminars. You have to. You can't quit if you have one or two bad ones.
When you have to, the way you do that is you have to believe in yourself in when you do the workshop, that it's gonna work, and you're gonna get people to sign up, and when they come in, you're going to process them through the planning process and get a lot of them to become your clients. So I think, David, maybe have people use the chat thing you're doing and answer based on if you follow, you don't have to follow everything, but let's say you just use what we described today and use some of it. You don't necessarily have to use all of it, but over the next 12 months, you start implementing these things. What do you estimate? Each individual, send it in. What do you estimate you're going to increase your production by? You just use some of the stuff you think will work. What do you really think, based on whatever you'll increase your production by?
Let's take a minute and type into the chat if you were to take some of this material. Don't have to eat the whole elephant's ear. What percentage do you believe you'd increase your business by? Type it into the chat right now, please. As you're on the call, and we'll read those off. While people are doing that, Dan, somebody has asked the question, can you touch on the seminar mailer, the cost and the frequency as a starter?
The mailer we're using, I think Dina knows. Who we're using, Dina?
Not that we switched from RME to Dell.
But I think we use all the big ones.
I think it's Financial Seminar Services.
And we switch back and forth because we get different results by switching back and forth every few months because they have different lists. But the seminar flyer we use is the same. You have it available. Dina will give you a copy of it. It's working really well. And it's not as pinpointed before. It's a little bit more open. And we're getting more people to sign up for it. And it's hitting the topics. You have that available. I think we usually do 12,000 mailers, cost about $8,500 to $9,000 every time we mail them out. And then we have to pay for the dinner. So if we mail up, cost $8,500, 2 dinners, probably we're now at about $12,000 of total cost. And depending on how many people, we're trying to get higher dollar amounts. You might then say, no, you're okay working with someone that has 250 or 500,000. You can get a lot more people to come to those seminars. You can fill them up. So let's say we get 20 at each one. So let's say we have 40. Out of those, we know there's probably out of 20 people, let's say there's 12 buying units each one, 24. Probably 8 of them don't qualify. They come without enough money. They just come for the free dinner. So let's say there's 16 of them we have. We'll probably get, let's say, 12 of those people to come in and meet with us. And we know then we have a high probability we're going to sell a big chunk of those.
But what you have to do, if you haven't done this seminar before, you can't wing it. You better know your presentation. You're spending $12,000, right? And remember, it's not just once. You got to make a commitment that you're going to spend that $12,000 over X number of months for the next year. You have to know your stuff. It's not difficult. You can learn the presentation, read it over 5 times this weekend, do it in front of Zoom, then get in front of your wife and your kids and give it to them. You've got to make sure that when you walk in there, that 12 grand you spent, you want a return on your investment. You do not want to wing it. It doesn't take a long time to learn the presentation, but you want to say it over and over and over again before you get there.
And even better, bore the hell out of David by making him listen to you give the seminar 8 times in a row and give you his critique.
Thank you, Dan. I think. Listen, nobody's chimed into the chat here, and I don't know why.
Come on, let's get some numbers.
Let's. Mark says, I'd like to increase 200 by 300% in production. Cirinolio said 20%. I've got some other folks in here. I know we've talked to people. Some people have been chiming into the chat. Winnie, I've seen you chime in talking about Dan and Jim. What do you think? Winnie says 100%. 100% increase. Abdur says 100%. Robert says 50%. I feel like I'm reading off numbers off like a telethon, tally here.
Good thing. The reason I asked you to do that, all the people to do this was, not putting them in a spot, but just to tell you, guess what? Every one of those numbers is reasonable. You can. Yeah. It literally is not hard to do what you're saying. The one that's saying 200 to 300% now, they're reaching for the stars, but they can do that. It's literally so easy to attain. We've seen people doing $2 million increase their business to $6 million. People do $5 million increase their business to 15. You can do it if you just focus on making sure you do whatever you can to get in front of clients, activity begets activity, and then start to follow just little sections of the process. The risk tachometer, right? Boom. The presentation, boom. 2 things right there will put you in a mode where you're in a lot better position to start increasing. You know, we knew it was going to be so easy for advisors to increase their production by 100%. We know that. All they have to do is a couple things to do a little bit more business, really, because we know we've increased it. You know, from when we started to now, first year we were 18 million, now 100 million. We increased our production 500%.
Yeah, but we went to 100 million within 3.5 years, though, too. Now, when you get to $100 million, we can't double it that easily, right? Because
Well, you should.
we're in a limited marketplace. A limited But getting to $100 million is not as difficult as you think it is. It's not.
Yeah.
And I do it. We did it after 3 years.
We got people chiming in 100%, 100%, and 200%. Augustine said 75%. David says 300%. Cernoli has said, I have to stay focused and take steps to make it 100%.
Okay, because think about it, what this does, the reason I wanted you to say it also, the second reason was, just like we told you, we know the planning changes our clients' lives. You doing this changes your life and your family's life. In reality, right?
Yeah.
It does. Like you folks, and when you think about this being a monumental task, only think about doing learn each individual piece at a time. It's easy. Because we already know you feel the things we're saying, and you always wanted to say things this way that was going to be received by the client in a good way. Now you have all the material in front of you, and you can say you work